How's everybody doing this morning? I believe that 2022 coming up is going to be the absolute craziest year we've ever seen in ministry. And it's not just our church. I really believe that it's going to be the craziest year across all denominations, across just what God is doing in the world. I didn't have time because we'd already started the service this morning, but at the ministry land in Sierra Leone, for lots of crazy reasons, they have this huge pavilion, and they've never allowed a church to be there. And so when I was there, I said, hey, we're right here in this community. Why don't we have a church? We have this 300 chairs, and we have this huge pavilion, and everybody comes here to get water at the well, and how come we're not doing that? And they said, well, we were never allowed to do that. And I said, well, you got a new boss, and we're going to do that. And so they all stepped up, and there were several different pastors that wanted to do it, and they decided amongst themselves that Pastor Samuel Bull would lead the church. So they started 4 weeks ago with about 7 adults, about 10 total with kids. And they just sent me a picture this morning, and they're up to over 50. And I believe every single one of them that are in there now were all former Muslims. And so he said, we're going to have to start doing baptisms next week in the river because so many people want to be baptized. God is doing something that we can't even understand, that we don't even have any idea of what's going on. And I think that we need to really start thinking outside of the box. We need to start letting God be God. We need to let the supernatural works of God work. Everybody that was here last week knows that just last week there was a Muslim chiefdom there, which would be like a city, and they contacted one of our pastors, and they said, hey, we want to have a church here in our chiefdom. And they're all Muslims. But everybody goes through their chiefdom because they live by the beach, and they go there to do baptisms. And they said, nobody's ever stopped, but we really feel like we need a church, and the name of that chiefdom is Devil's Hole. And so you have Muslim leaders of a place called Devil's Hole asking us to start a Bible school and a church in their chiefdom, and they're going to provide the building and the land. God is on the move, people. God is on the move in such a supernatural way. And it's not just over there. It's just not overseas. It's everywhere. God is the same. God is omnipresent. And I got to tell you, we need to get out of this mindset that God only does stuff on the mission field. We need to get out of the mindset that God only does this in other places. The reason God does it in other places is because those people are hungry. The reason we can go to the hill tribes of Thailand, we can go into Cambodia, we can go to Sierra Leone, we can go to Uganda. The reason so many people there get healed and delivered is because they don't have hospitals and doctors to go to. They don't have 100 different opinions. They can't just go down and get a shot. They just can't go down and get a diagnosis or an x-ray. They have nothing to rely upon except for the supernatural move of God. And so their expectation is not, God, if you really want to do this. Their expectation is, you have to do something or I'm going to die. We need to get that hunger within ourselves. Today it's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to be talking about our vision going into 2022. And a little bit over 17 years ago, we started the church. God gave us a mission statement, and it's to advance the kingdom of God by making disciples, building strong families, training leaders, and planting churches. I can tell you that over the time, I really believe we have been advancing the kingdom of God. Yes, amen. I really believe that we have been making disciples. We've sent people, we've trained people, we've brought people in from all over that have gone to different places. Everywhere we go in the nations, and I'm not demeaning what people do, but we're not going places and laying a concrete floor. We're going places and we're training up pastors and leaders and Bible college students. That seems to be the thing that God gives us. And when we go and do that, we're training up nationals to take the gospel to their own people so they're not relying on foreigners to come in and do it. We're training up local leaders, and that's what we're going to continue to do. I really believe that all along we've been building strong families. We've been building strong families through helping people through addictions and helping people through problems and helping people, families that are struggling. We've been, it's just been one of the things that I think that we've done very well over the years. And it's just seeing people where they are, seeing people through God's eyes and just helping them walk through those things. This next season that I really believe started 2 years ago when Duncan and Kate Smith came here is this next season we're moving into is church planting. And so we're going to be talking a little bit about that today, but I really believe, just like what we saw, we just opened the doors for people to plant a church there on the property, and it's already growing, and other people are already calling. There's 15 other pastors that want to open up churches right now in Sierra Leone that we're working through the logistics of what that looks like. There's churches opening up all across northern Thailand where we're at. And our pastor in Burma, Pastor Elijah, that we go to his school every year, it's been horrible in Burma with the military coup and them killing lots of the leaders, them killing pastors and leaders across the whole entire nation. And the crazy part is he has people lined up to go to school to become pastors because the pastors are all being killed. So you have people in the middle of a coup where most of the businesses have been shut down, and they've killed lots of pastors, thousands of pastors, and now you have people wanting to pay what little bit of money they have, not being able to work. You have people that want to pay to go to Bible school to become a pastor so they can go back and take the person's place who was beheaded. Church, we're missing it. We're not desperate enough. And that's just not happening there. It's happening all over the world. It's happening all over the world. And when those things are happening, it's really crazy. You just see the gospel advance. You see more people coming out. I mean, I shared a few weeks ago, we partnered with Joshua Nations. They were there in Chad a few weeks back, at the same time we were in Sierra Leone. They were in Chad, and they were training up pastors while the Muslims were killing pastors. They were training up pastors to go out and start more Bible schools, and they had 110 pastors, I believe, at their training, and they were chomping at the bit to go out, even knowing that even leaving the meeting, they could be killed on the way to where they're going, and they didn't care. They're like, if we can just reach a few, then they'll reach a few, and they'll reach a few, and they'll never be able to kill us all. Our vision is to equip a radical community who will aggressively invade the nations with the gospel of Jesus Christ in the power of the Holy Spirit. You know what? We need to be aggressive. I got to tell you is that I know churches that go out every week and they have 30, 40, 50, 100 people say a prayer on the street, but they never have another person in the church. They're not doing that. And you know what? God didn't call us to have people say prayers. He called us to make disciples. It goes way beyond making a prayer. It goes way beyond salvation. Salvation is like the very first baby step. It's sticking their toe in the water and getting the very tip of their toe wet. We need to be taking them out in the deep water where they can learn how to swim, where they can learn how to survive, where they no longer are reliant on the ground they're standing on, but they're totally reliant on God. We need to be aggressive about what we're doing. I think we would find out that people that we would never dream of, that there's people we work with, there's neighbors that are around us, there's things going on, and you know what? We've never invited them to church because of their situation or because we think they would say. And I can tell you, we've had testimony after testimony when somebody finally comes and they said, oh, I live next door to Joe, and he never invited me, but I finally came, and this is what I've needed all along. You know what? All people can tell you is no. All people can tell you is no thank you. But you know what? God comes in and he moves. We have a family that lives on our block that really, they've never wanted us. They know we're pastors, and so right away that kind of puts up a huge wall. And so they're very cautious about what they say. And they're very cautious about what they do. They're cautious about what their children say. But you know what? Her dad's dying of cancer, and the other day she came over and just asked Christy to pray for her. And I hear the doorbell cam going off, and I pick up my phone, and there she is holding this lady crying on our front porch. We live in a lost and dying world, and we need to step out. I got to tell you, now is the time. It's no longer the time to wait around. It's no longer to rally the troops. It's time to run out of the gates, and those that want to come can come, and those that don't want to come can stand back. But you know what? God is moving, and we can't wait until everybody we think needs to be involved is involved. So what exactly does it mean for us here at Catch the Fire Boulder for 2020? 2022, yes. I even wrote it down correctly. I can tell you that really there's something that God had put on my heart, and I don't know, so many people. How many people here say, you know, that you really just have to have one thing to focus on? You have to have one thing to put all your effort into. Anybody? Impossible? Well, a few weeks ago, I was on a call with my pastor coaching team, and different people in the room there. I don't know, there was like 30 of us or so, but different people were given prophetic words over different people in the nations, and there was people from all over. And one of the guys was kind of hesitant, and he goes, Steve, I see you have 6 doors that God has opened before you. And so my typical thought is, all right, you know, so you're going to kind of help me decide which door to go through and stuff. And he goes, so I don't know how to tell you this, but God is saying you have to go through all 6 doors. That all 6 of those doors are yours, and you need to be going through all 6 of them. And so it's kind of figuring out, okay, so I talked to him even later. They were doors side by side. They weren't progressive doors. It wasn't like going through an airlock into another place and into another place. But after we hung up, God really just started showing me what that looks like. And one of the things is we're going to start a bilingual church planting school. And we've already been working on it. We're going to start in the spring. And this school isn't just for lead people. All the church planting schools I've seen are the leaders go there, and no matter what it is, you go there for a month, you go there for 2 months or 3 months, or you go there for 2 years, whatever the case may be. You go there for a period of time, and the leaders go, and the leaders are supposed to gather a team and pray into all those things. But I see that when church planners go out, then that really becomes a problem, because while you gather people, and to be honest, most of the people that want to go with you are leaving their church because they don't think they're doing something right. I mean, we can say whatever we want to say, but you know what? I've seen it more times than not. So somebody leaves here and they want to go be part of something new so they can help you do what the other person wasn't doing. And they have no idea, you know what? You really have no idea until you lead a church what it's like to lead a church. Isn't that true, Pastor Mark? I have a friend here from Kansas today, and he leads a church up there. And you just have to be everything to everybody. And people don't understand that sometimes the overall priority God has might not be the priority that is pushing on their button. And so, after lots of talking and discussing with different people that have church planting schools and different people that have done it both nationally and locally, I really believe that when we start a school, I don't want just lead people there. I want people that are prayer warriors. I want people there that are administrative. I want people there that are going to do worship. I want teachers. I want sound and technicians. I want people there that are going to do different things in the service, ushers and things like that. I want people there that are going to do translation. And with this approach, everyone is going to be on the same page. Everybody's going to know the big picture. Everybody's going to know what's going on. And then in their special gifting, in what God's called them to do, they can be a part of the whole. They can just be that one puzzle piece. And I really believe we can make a lot bigger picture. And I really believe that it'll have a lot bigger impact. And the other great part about it is in doing it this way, when you're just training X amount of couples or singles, it doesn't have to be couples, but most of the time it is. When you're training people how to start a church, doing it in this fashion will give people a chance to mesh. This prayer person is going to mesh better with this person, and this administrative person's going to be able to work better with this person. It's just going to be, I really believe, a lot better way. I really believe that God is calling us here is out of this to start 5 more campuses. And the great part about starting 5 campuses is we can start reaching out into an area in a very soft way, but the different teams can intermingle and different people can hang out with different people, and we can start going to areas and we can start tilling the ground. We can start working together, and people are going to naturally attract, and people are actually going to come together. The other beautiful part about what I really feel like God's put on my heart is we just want to do this, and not from a control standpoint, but you know what? When you start a church, there's a lot of things that have to happen. But you know what? We already have administration. We already have a 501c3. We already have bank accounts. We already have ways to tabulate the offering and do all the reporting. We already have lots of stuff in place, and so we're just looking at starting smaller areas now where you have a whole entire, for lack of a better explanation, you have a whole entire corporation behind you to back, and you just have to do what you do. And out of that, God is going to raise people up. I really believe we're going to do something towards the west side of Boulder, closer to the mountains, in that direction some way. We want to do something in Longmont. We want to do something in Thornton. I believe that's some of the areas that God is really highlighting, and I really believe God's going to open doors supernaturally, and I got to tell you, I have great faith. Every time we've needed a building, God's always provided, and we outgrow that building, He provides another one. And so I'm not worried about the stuff the administrative people around me are worried about, and that's good they're worried about it. It works. Yeah, wherever. So with this approach, everyone's going to be on the same page. We're going to start this school in the spring. And so as we reach out, we're just going to see where people start to respond. And simultaneously, while we're doing this, we're also starting churches and schools all across Sierra Leone. We're also doing stuff in other nations. We're also going to be pouring into several other Catch the Fire churches in this nation and in other nations. So travel. As some of you noticed, and we're going to talk about this more later, Joel has taken a more out front role in this season. I think it's really kind of interesting, and I guess sometimes we don't explain it enough, but we have an eldership team. It's made up of Bruno and Taylor, Joel and Ingrid, John and Sharon, Christy and myself, and Lane and Sheila. And so some people go, well, you know, we only see you, or we only see this person, we only see this going on. I got to tell you, it takes all of us to pull this off. And a lot of the time, Joel and Ingrid have been in the background, but Joel and Ingrid have kept all the corporate paperwork, have kept all the books, have kept us all on track tried to keep us on track on staying on budget. And I got to tell you, it's just a really huge undertaking, and it's not my gift. It's not my thing. I don't even think that way, but I need people around me that do think that way. Otherwise, we wouldn't be where we are today. So each and every eldership couple has their real place in the team, and I got to tell you, none of us are alike. If you ever sat in our elders meetings, I've really never had any yes men that surrounded me. Yes men, yes women. It's never been that way. Everybody has their view on things, and that's the way we operate, and that's the way we move forward. So we were supposed to be going to Sierra Leone in January, but now it's going to be a little bit later in the year because Sierra Leone is a very corrupt country, and they had one case of Omicron, and now they're instituting a 10-day quarantine at $150 a person per day, plus meals. So we would have to go there. To be there for 10 days, we'd have to be there for pretty much the whole month, and I don't think that's what God has for us today. But the work is still going on. So I'm going to be sending out the local leaders to go out and meet with all the people we were going to meet with and have them go out and share the message, and that's our goal anyway. But we have Sierra Leone, we have Thailand. Hopefully Burma is going to be open and safe. I don't know that I've ever been there that I would call it safe, but it's going to have to be safer so that we can go into the country and do that. We also have opportunities to go to these places via online teachings and recording teachings upstairs. And anybody that really feels like you have a message, on Mondays and Tuesdays for sure, we have divinities upstairs, and you can come in and record a message, and we're sending those messages out. Those that want to give a message in Spanish through Joshua Nations, we have churches all over the world, thousands and thousands of churches that need gospel messages in Spanish on video. So it's time for those that are Spanish speakers that have been hiding in the corner, it's time to come out. It's time not just to listen, it's time to share. And we'll interpret that to English so that we can understand what you're sharing. Okay, Edgar? And Norma? I hadn't got to her yet. Maribel's going to come and teach on the advanced prophetic. But I want to tell people we have a lot of invites to Canada. We're praying for some great connections in Mexico. I really believe that God has a real call for us in Mexico. I really believe there's going to be a huge breakthrough there. We have multiple people from Mexico that watch every week to our live stream and are participating. Most of these trips we take are usually 15 days, maybe other than the ones to Canada. And all of those require a passport, and they require a COVID vaccination. And I know that's a problem for some people, and that's okay, because there's some really good news, is that if you still want to travel with us, We're going to be going to Dallas in February. We're going to be going to Myrtle Beach. We're going to be going to Houston, Texas. We're going to be going to Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. We're going to be going to Florida. And so there's going to be all kinds of opportunities. Most of those in-state trips will probably leave like on a Friday afternoon or a Friday evening, be there for Saturday and Sunday, and fly home Sunday night. Is kind of the thing. That might switch a little bit. We might have to leave on a Friday morning or come back on a Monday morning. But there's going to be opportunities for people to go with us and go pour into other churches and go pour in to other leaders. And and what? Boston? Did you say Boston? Boston. Okay. They're inviting us to Boston. They're moving to Boston in just a couple weeks. So most of these trips are going to be weekend trips. John Arnott is going to be coming here in March or April. We're working on the exact date, but I really believe this is going to be a remarkable time for the church. I'm not one that I've never been one that really beat down the doors. I've never been one that begged people to come to our church. Pretty much everybody that came to our church has just come. It's been remarkable. I know when Dr. Michael Heiser came to our church, when I emailed him and said, "Hey, will you come to our church?" His auto reply said, "Don't take this personal, but we get thousands of requests every day, and I do not respond to emails. If we're planning on coming to you, then somebody from my board will get a hold of you." So I didn't get discouraged. I didn't get deflated. I just said, that's life. And like 15 minutes later, he called back. "I'm going to be there in 2 weeks on a Thursday because I'm speaking at a conference. Could I come to your church then?" He's booked out several years. And so I can tell you is that it's kind of crazy in a way, but when Duncan and Kate came, after they came, I really felt like God just showed me that the Arnotts were going to come here to our church. I really believe it was going to be both of them. I think that's what God said. I'm not holding fast to that. And then when we were actually invited to be a part of Catch the Fire, we were in the Dominican Republic, and people were making it very clear to me, because there was people there from Catch the Fires all over the whole entire world. It was the world gathering of leaders, and everybody's let me know that John and Carol are booked up for over 3 years solid. And so they said, chances of getting them to come to your church are probably not very good. And I was like, well, I wasn't asking them to come to our church. You know, there's all kinds of people. We're already doing great things, and, you know, I don't believe that it's really about that one little thing. And then before we left, John and Carol walked up to us and said, "God really spoke to us, and we need to come to your church." And so he gave me his personal email and said, "Email me, and I'm going to give it to my personal assistant." And so they were supposed to be here in March of 2020, but COVID started, and they closed the border in Canada, and they weren't able to come. And so when we just saw them a few weeks ago when we were in North Carolina, we never even talked about them coming, and a week ago I just got a call, and they said, "Hey, we're coming to dedicate a church in Oklahoma, and then we want to come to your church before we go back to Canada." I really believe that something significant is going to happen when they come. I really believe it's going to be a very significant time here for us. I really believe that God is on the edge of doing something. I can also tell you that Catch the Fire World had already contacted me, and just God works in such mysterious, crazy ways. I never know what Jehovah Sneaky's up to. But he's always doing things and setting up things in order that we don't even know what's going on. So out of all this stuff, this year, Catch the Fire World was doing a leadership training in Liberia. And it just got canceled. It was supposed to be in December. It just got canceled because of travel restrictions. But Liberia is right below Sierra Leone. And so when that was still going on, they were saying, can you contact the pastors that are part of your organization now in Sierra Leone and see the ones in Liberia if they want to come? Because there is some Joshua Nation schools in Liberia that have been started. And so then they got a hold of me after they had their world meeting, and they said, hey, we want to bring the whole team to Sierra Leone in 2022 and do leadership trainings in Sierra Leone. And so that's bringing lots of people from all over the world, major church world leaders, generals in God's army to come to Sierra Leone. So I'm speaking with the people in Sierra Leone pretty much daily, different groups of people. And so they told me about this before they had Joshua Nations Bible schools there, before Russ ever went there the first time. Peggy Cummings was sending all of her leaders to a Bible school there. And they told me the name of the Bible school. And he goes, I just found my curriculum because there were some Americans that were paying the tuition for all of us to go to this 2-year school. And they would just send so many every year, they would send another batch. And I just found my book, and so I just want to send you the curriculum they were using. Just so you kind of know. And they want to take pictures with their little cheap flip phone, and you can't read anything by the time they send you a picture taken in the dark. So I just said, hey, why don't you just tell me what it is? And since it came out of America, I'll see if I just can't find it online. And so while we're talking, I type it in, and I find the curriculum in PDF. And so I go, great, you don't need to send me anything. I found all the curriculum. So after we hang up, I get on the curriculum. And the curriculum was written by a man named Dr. Russ Tatro. And anybody that's been in the Joshua Nations, Russ was on a plane, Dr. Russ Fraze, and he's sitting next to a man who just starts talking to him and says, hey, my name's Dr. Russ Tatro, and we're missionaries, and I have a 2-year curriculum in Spanish, and I really feel like God wants me to give you this DVD, this CD with this 2-year curriculum, and he said you can use it. And so the curriculum they were using before was Joshua Nations, and when I look at it, they didn't even realize that it's the same exact curriculum. So when I went to the website, I started reading, and it's something I've heard the story about how they did that and how Russ took it to Cuba and how it went to all the prisons and all that great stuff happened. Right? And I've heard the story over and over. I've read it. I've been with him when he shared the story in multiple different nations. But when I went to the site and I started reading, Russ Tatro and his wife started their ministry in Liberia. They wrote the curriculum to reach the Liberians. And then some things happened, and they moved the ministry to Sierra Leone. And then the Civil War started, and they had to leave Sierra Leone. Us being back there using the same Joshua Nations curriculum, only we've updated some stuff, but using the same curriculum, do you realize we're opening up the well that Russ Tatro started, that Russ redug, and now we are reopening the well in the very 3 countries, Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia, where it started and it was shut off. I sent the link to Jason and Anna Holland, who are running that now, and I said, did you know that it started there? They're like, I've never heard this. I knew they were missionaries, And so it's kind of funny. The other two places they took it to was Austria and Germany. And as everybody knows, right before COVID, not long before COVID, we were in Austria and we were in Germany sharing the gospel, and we had invites to come back, and COVID happened, and we haven't been able to follow up any of that. I got to tell you, God has different ways He's working stuff out. God has different ways He's revealing stuff. We would have never known what is going on, but I got to tell you is, along the way, God is definitely throwing up signposts. People we've been in contact with, people we've came in with. We had breakout groups last week on our pastor's coach deal, and I ended up with this man, Mark Perry. Well, the main guy I'm working with in Sierra Leone runs the Iris base in Sierra Leone, and his name is Andrew. Mark Perry knows Andrew, has been to the base multiple times, and Andrew has been at Mark Perry's house receiving training. It's a small world, and people that you would never know, and all they were doing was having everybody share a testimony about what's been going on in the last 6 months in your church, and I shared what we were doing, and he goes, "Hey, I have a guy there. His name's Andrew. He runs the Iris base." And I said, "Yeah, Andrew Cisse. He's working with us now." That's what I'm telling you is God is doing exciting things. God is moving people, and He's placing people in very key positions. It's like a chess game. And God is moving people right in the right locations at the right exact time. And you know what, church? We need to realize that. We need to realize when you look at the whole chessboard, maybe you don't see the end, but God does. And we can't think just because He moved us as a little pawn to be sacrificed, we can't think that there isn't something strategic in that. If you've ever played chess, there's lots of times the pawn takes the queen, or the pawn actually wins the game. Each and every one of us are crucial and important to God's plan. I really believe it's time for all of us to step up into our calling. It's time for all of us to move from where we are and step into what we're called to do. Yeah, Ingrid, you're not doing enough these days. He's holding her down in the chair. No, but it's time for all of us to step up and do what God's called us to do. And you know what? The enemy wants to tell us everything we can't do. The enemy wants to show us where we've been. The enemy wants to show us where we failed. The enemy wants to keep on reminding us yesterday. The enemy wants to remind us of all the prophetic words that haven't come to pass. He wants to remind us of every time we missed it. He wants to remind us of every time we messed up. And I got to tell you, God knows the end from the beginning. God already knew we were going to mess up. He already knew we were going to walk away. He already knew we weren't going to listen. He already knew everything that was going to happen before it ever happened. And the reality is, He doesn't want us to live there. He wants us to live right here. I don't believe that Russ Tatro, that day on the plane when he handed Russ a CD-ROM with a 2-year Spanish curriculum, ever thought that Russ was going to plant somebody back in Sierra Leone to take off and move forward what he ever started. I would virtually guarantee that that never happened because he never mentioned anything to Russ about Africa. He only talked about Spanish. We need to see that God is on the move and we don't see all the moves on the board. God is linking people. He's linking people and He's putting people in place, and we need to step back and understand who we are in Him.